Well, I think that there are sort of two different ways of holding reality, and one is the scientific emphasis on the physical, and the other is the religious emphasis on the metaphysical, or the intangible. And one is an empirically based, and one is a faith-based tradition. Parapsychology, in some ways, bridges those. The data from psi research suggests that there are aspects of our consciousness that can't simply be reduced to the physical dimensions of our brain, for example. And yet they're trying to bring this lens of rigor and discernment that comes from science to address these kinds of more religious-based questions. Is there something more to our essence than just our physicality? So I think that most representatives of the parapsychological community wouldn't stake a claim one way or another, would actually suggest that the important question is our ability to ask the question. What inhibits our culture from allowing us to ask the questions that parapsychologists want about how can science reveal some truths about these immaterial aspects of our being?
But in terms of your inner dynamics when you talk among each other, what are the internal feelings among parapsychologists? Does it show the existence of some non-physical realm?
I think what's being revealed through these kinds of inquiries where, science and the objective pursuit of truth comes together with the kind of more faith-based spiritual aspects is a deeper understanding of the complexities. This interface of these different truth systems is going to force a new way of understanding reality. And it's going to force both science to accommodate some of these intangibles, and it's going to force some of the faith communities to engage in things like evolutionary theory and genetics. And in that process, I think there will be new answers to these age-old questions about, are we our biology? Are we our metaphysics, or are we a combination of both that has incarnated at a very unique moment in history?
Take some specific examples which, at least historically, have had a spiritual personality involved, such as poltergeist, such as mediums. All of these, historically at least, have claimed to be either caused by or in touch with a non-physical personality.
So oftentimes what happens when somebody talks about a poltergeist, these kind of noisy spirits that cause random things to happen in a house, the impulse within the parapsychological community is to go psychological. So, for example, it's often associated with a pubescent adolescent who has all these kind of hormones and complexities going on intrapsychically.
And they get projected?
That's the idea, that it's actually a psychokinetic mind over matter influence that's creating changes in the ambient environment. So that doesn't really require that there be demonic forces out there acting these things out, but that would be the worldview of the parapsychologist. That would be different than somebody who's coming from a spiritualist worldview. In terms of this whole question of mediumship, for example, there are some very interesting data now converging from different lines that support the idea that perhaps consciousness survives bodily death. But ultimately, in terms of where the schism rests, I think that the data still are not completely in about what is the support that psi research offers to the notion that our consciousness is more than the physical.